Let's jump right in, because today we are unpacking something absolutely fascinating. We're looking at how the visual language of the massive 2026 World Cup is essentially being defined by this massive clash between corporate mega brands and, well, basement-producing teenagers. We're diving deep into the world of the soccer edit. You've definitely seen them, those incredibly fast-paced, music-driven vertical videos that have completely taken over how we actually consume the sport today. We're opening up with the chaotic, bass-dropping energy of a World Cup funk anthem. Just try to imagine those lyrics, "Bring the cup home, tonight we fly," layered over this thumping, high BPM bass line, right? This is not your grandfather's sweeping orchestral sports anthem. It's gritty, it's relentless, and it perfectly sets the stage for a tournament where audio and visual rhythm rule the internet. It really represents a massive shift in how the hype for global soccer is being manufactured right now. And to really wrap our heads around the scale of this digital battleground, we have to look at the unprecedented physical scale of 2026. 48 teams, 104 matches, 16 cities across North America. I mean, we have literally never seen a tournament of this size. It is a logistical giant stretching across Canada, Mexico, and the United States. And because that physical footprint is so massive, the digital footprint, the actual battle for your attention on social media, is proportionately explosive.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to hit 1. The World Cup stage. 2. Brand wars. 3. Broadcaster narratives. 4. The creator economy. 5. The anatomy of a soccer edit. And finally, 6. Reclaiming the game. Let's get to it.
Starting off with Section 1, the World Cup stage, a cultural mosaic.
The contrast here is super clear right out of the gate when we look at how host cities are translating their local vibes into this global media landscape. On one hand, you've got Seattle leaning heavy into coordinated logistics, uniting IT, police, and fire departments under the strict One Seattle framework for match weekends. But then you look at Atlanta, and they are purely selling the vibe. They're using a sonic ID that channels their legendary hip-hop heritage, specifically referencing Outkast's famous quote that the South got something to say, branding themselves as the soccer city of the South. So it's essentially infrastructure up against raw culture.
Moving on to Section 2. Brand wars. Nike versus Editzzz, the Goliaths of hype.
Now, what's so wild about these brand wars is how the world's biggest sportswear companies are flat out weaponizing aesthetics to grab your attention in a really crowded feed. But modern soccer edits didn't just fall out of the sky, right? They evolved. Take a look at this timeline. You start with Nike's 1994 global passing billboards, then the iconic 1998 airport terminal match. By 2002, Nike's secret tournament inside a cargo ship gave us those rapid cuts and beat-matched music, which is quite literally the blueprint for today's TikTok edits. And of course, in 2006, Adidas clapped back with the nostalgic Jose plus 10 dirt pitch, cementing that whole grassroots trope.
Fast forward to today, and that history perfectly sets up how these two giants are clashing right now. Nike's Rip the Script campaign is this frantic, vertical, 6-minute flex of active players like Erling Haaland, mixed in with pop stars and fashion labels like Drake's Nocta. It's 100% built for rapid scrolling and Gen Z attention spans. Adidas, on the flip side, answers with Backyard Legends, which is this heavy, narrative-driven nostalgia trip featuring Timothée Chalamet, mixing today's stars with digital recreations of past icons.
Just look at that number on the screen for a second. $50 million. That's what Adidas spent to artificially recreate a raw, grassroots neighborhood aesthetic. Think about that. They seamlessly blended AI-generated de-aged faces of 90s legends like Zidane and Beckham with modern superstars like Messi. It's a massive paradox, isn't it? Spending tens of millions of dollars on high-end CGI just to simulate the simple, pressure-free joy of playing on a local dirt pitch.
Let's move to Section 3. Broadcaster narratives. Selling the local story.
So let's see how this builds when we look at the official TV broadcasters. They aren't selling shoes, they're actually using speculative fiction to sell the hype of the matches themselves. Fox is taking on American soccer skepticism head-on. Their Miracle ad builds a fictional universe where Christian Pulisic scores the game-winning goal in the World Cup final, making soccer completely take over American culture, all set to an Elvis Presley track. Telemundo takes a totally different but equally brilliant route. They highlight the emotional, bilingual passion of their broadcast by having actor Owen Wilson get captivated by the dramatic delivery of Spanish announcers, eventually calling Sofia Vergara to help him figure it out. Just a fantastic, comedic celebration of the culture.
And the glue tying all this corporate and broadcast media together? It's the music. Again, try to hear this in your head. High-impact bass lines, relentless tempos, the booming energy of Burna Boy's official track Die Die, alongside Future and Tyla's Game Time. This sonic ID is engineered to unify the audio landscape across stadiums and social media alike. It creates this heavy, dramatic atmosphere that perfectly scores the fast-paced visuals we've been talking about.
All right, Section 4, the creator economy, decentralized Davids.
Now we are pivoting away from the top-down Goliaths, the Nikes, the Editzzz, the major networks, and looking at the bottom-up Davids. This is the decentralized creator economy that's actively remixing the sport. First, it's super interesting to look at how the national teams themselves play this game. They are fighting for digital dominance, which is tracked by these social pulse scores. France is currently leading the pack at 70.4, largely because of their viral, bilingual locker room humor. Argentina is right behind them, mostly leaning on behind-the-scenes messy content, while Brazil relies on highlighting individual skills and dance celebrations. They all know exactly what feeds the algorithm.
But driving that algorithm from behind the curtain is a massive freelance machine. Sure, you have mega influencers like Celine Diplati with her 58 million subs, or IShowSpeed literally running around with the players. But behind them, there is a huge gig economy. Go on Reddit and you'll find hundreds of young editors churning out these syncopated viral 60-second edits for like 30 to 40 euros a pop. It is honestly wild to realize that these largely unknown freelancers are the ones actually defining the visual trends of the entire sport right now.
Which brings us to Section 5, Anatomy of a Soccer Edit, the technical deep dive.
Let's get a little technical and look at the actual sub-pixel mechanics of how these viral edits are built. At the absolute top of the food chain, TV networks use heavy enterprise AI like Magnify to automatically cut match highlights. Pro clubs use Huddle for tactical analysis, but the solo creators, the kids making the viral edits, they are dominating the landscape using nimble, template-driven tools like CapCut right on their phones. It gives them vertical templates, instant auto captions, and allows for incredibly fast turnaround times.
Now, if you've ever watched an incredible slow-motion Mbappe compilation on TikTok, you've probably asked yourself, how is this footage not choppy? Standard TV broadcasts are only 25 or 50 frames per second. If you just slow that down in an editor, it stutters horribly. So how did these teenagers make it look like it was shot on a $50,000 cinema camera?
Honestly, the secret is just intense math. Creators use plugins like Twixtor that utilize something called optical flow estimation. This algorithm calculates a velocity vector field, basically mapping where a pixel is in frame 1 and where it moves to in frame 2. And then it literally invents brand new frames out of thin air to fill in the gaps. That is exactly how the action glides so perfectly, turning a standard TV clip into an absolute cinematic masterpiece. So, here is the exact step-by-step recipe for a modern soccer edit. Step 1. Smooth it out using that Twixtor interpolation we just talked about. Step 2. Contrast that buttery motion by shaking the camera violently on the y-axis right when the bass drops. Step 3. Slap a moody, high-contrast color grade over it, what the community calls a 4K CC. And amazingly, creators just share these complex grading settings via scannable QR codes, meaning a kid in Brazil and a kid in London can standardize the aesthetic instantly.
Finally, Section 6, Reclaiming the Game. Digital folklore.
Let's zoom back out for a second and examine why this specific style of grassroots editing matters so much to global soccer culture today. There's this massive irony playing out. On one hand, the tournament is getting so commercialized. We're seeing luxury fashion crossovers, highly inflated ticket prices, Super Bowl-style halftime shows, and traditional fans feel the sport is losing its working-class roots. But on the other hand, these fans are using complex software to rip that corporate polish right off. They take pristine billion-dollar broadcast footage and make it gritty again.
And that leads to the crucial takeaway from all this source material. These edits are a form of modern digital folklore. By cutting out the sponsor logos, changing the pacing, and adding their own music, regular people are essentially taking the beautiful game back from the billionaires. It's a highly sophisticated, grassroots rebellion, and it's being entirely played out in 60-second vertical videos.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final thought as we gear up for 2026. The brands are spending hundreds of millions of dollars to set the stage. But the fans, they're the ones writing the script every single day online. When that first whistle blows, who actually controls the culture of this tournament? Is it the executives sitting in the boardroom or the freelance editors sitting in their bedrooms? Think about that the next time you scroll past a viral soccer edit. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep learning.